All right, so this obviously is the Mod Duo X. These are all assignable knobs and buttons. These two are endless. These two are end full. Buttons down here, 2 outputs, 2 inputs, an expression or CV input, or a headphone or CV output. First, I'm just going to show you how the Mod Duo works traditionally. This is a pedal that is just a stereo gain pedal. It's just going to give us some volume control, and I'm going to patch input 1 to the left and the right, and then I should have a signal from this guitar. Might want to turn the guitar up. All right, so let's go gear shopping here. These are various plugins and pedals and basic things that we could load into our overall session up here. And so you may notice some beta ones that are kind of ugly looking. Ignore those, they're not finished yet. I'm just going to choose a preamp that's called Red Eye Vibro, and then I'm going to use a vintage cabinet, and if I zoom in I can actually pick the cabinet. Let's just go with like a London 4x12, and then I should have, yeah, I can get a lot of options here as well. Before I go any further into here, I'd like to choose a reverb pedal. Let's just use a stereo plate, and here is a pretty basic setup. So let's just use common sense with the wiring it up. Input 1, where my guitar is, goes into the preamp, that goes into the cab goes into the left right of the reverb goes left right into the left right of the overall stereo gain, and then we should have a ooh, that sounds pretty ugly. Let's turn that gain and tone down. You know, let's put a flanger right before that reverb. Ooh, nice, this is stereo too. So input. All right, so here's our little effects chain. It has a really nice organic tone. These things can get crazy pretty fast. This is a harmonizer, for example. So when you look at all these pedals, it could get really powerful really fast. And if you're interested in more guitar stuff, definitely look up more stuff on the Mod Duo, because that is the 4-board multi-effects version of the Mod Duo X, which is the desktop version, which is 4 times as powerful and can do a whole lot more than this. All right, so we're starting from scratch here. I actually have a MicroFreak hooked up to the Mod Duo X via USB. Plug and play, I didn't configure anything, and it's actually powering the MicroFreak. And now we just need something to control. So we can click generator here, and just for ease of demonstration, let's choose the TAL Noisemaker plugin, and I'm gonna go out left, out right, and then over here, this is my MIDI in, that's going to go in here. And so without any additional patching, I'm just gonna press a key on the MicroFreak and see if this works. It does. All right, remember that all of these sounds are coming from the Mod Duo X. Nothing's coming from my computer right now. All right, I patched a nice shimmer effect to the end of this. All right, so modular stuff. I'm going to go into control voltage over here, and you're going to see a lot of beta stuff, unfortunately, so it's going to be a little crazy. Basic subtractive synth stuff, like that's a VCF, a filter. Here is a VCO, an oscillator, a linear VCA, which is an amplifier that is controllable by control voltage, and here maybe I could find a MIDI to CV, I'm sure. There it is, MIDI to CV mono mod. An LFO would come in handy, and of course an ADSR. All right, I feel like I've just done this subtractive synth setup so many times on this channel, but I feel like I haven't done it in like a year, so it's kind of fun. All right, so this is MIDI to the CV converter. The CV pitch will go to the frequency of the VCO. The gate will go to the envelope. It will trigger that envelope, and that envelope will, let's make it a envelope for the VCA, for the amplifier. So we can pop it in there. We can have the LFO control the frequency of the cutoff. And then, of course, the oscillator is going to want to go out into the input of the VCA. The VCA is going to want to go out into our main output. And there you go. We also have pulse width control on this VCO. For some reason, plugging the LFO into the exponential FM is actually more powerful than the frequency modulation input of the cutoff. I don't know why, but whatever. I'll live with it. All right, so one last tidbit. When I first looked at this LFO, or a lot of these things, I thought to myself, why the hell does it not have an input? Well, there is a pretty clever way to get around those situations in this environment, and I'm going to have another LFO here. Let's make it a super slow sine wave LFO, and I'm going to go manage CV ports up here. I'm going to click this one. We can just leave that as the name, or we could just name it, I don't know, Danny. Yeah, there we go. Beautiful. Hey, Danny. All right, now I'm going to open up the configuration of this LFO, and the frequency is going to be controlled by CV, and that is going to be Danny. I'm going to make Danny really slow here, and he will control the LFO speed. And of course we could bring this to ridiculous levels with audio rate modulation, and now I actually have some controls up here to mess with that. All right, I realize a lot of you are not big fans of fart sounds, so here's just a analog pad controlled by MIDI. All right, you know what? Here's that same analog synth pad with a modular patch going on, with a full sequence going on with drums, and then I could just press this button to start it. And to show you how easy it is to map a button natively to the interface of this thing, I'm just going to click this little cog wheel here, the VCF frequency, that's filter frequency, basically the cutoff. I am going to click device. I'm going to click, let's see, knob 5 looks good, and saved. And we're done now. And now we can, throughout our track, control that perimeter. Alright, so trying to push this as far as it goes, this is a little drum sequence. It is a little chord sequence that's running through a DX10 emulator, and then my guitar is coming in. It's going through its own little like guitar effects. I have this really Joe Satriani distortion that I've dialed in with this here button. Then these two buttons here actually arm and reset loop points from a little looper pedal on here that only play it at certain times. It basically takes a rest and then plays it again until I reset it. Let's try the looper.